was a typically warm Newcastle summer morning, not unlike this one, when the destiny of Australia's sixth largest city was irreversibly altered. On Thursday, the 28th of December, 1989, the people of Newcastle were enjoying the holiday season. The city's beaches were crowded with surfers and children reveling in the ideal conditions. The city centre was a hive of activity, as many took the opportunity to stock up for the new year. Others had come to town to take advantage of the post-Christmas sales. Most businesses, including the natural gas company, were operating with traditional Christmas skeleton staff levels, as many holidayed with family and friends who travelled to the Hunter to enjoy the beaches, lake and bay. What was to follow was considered to be unthinkable, improbable, impossible. But at 10:27 a.m, it happened. On that eventful and tragic day, the central business districts of Newcastle and surrounding suburbs were devastated by an earthquake. The quake, measuring 5.5 on the Richter scale, shook the city for 45 long and harrowing seconds. Seismologists pinpointed the earthquake's epicenter to the suburb of Cardiff, some 13 kilometres to the west of the city. The quake was relatively shallow, occurring just 13 kilometres below the Earth's surface. This was the first time that a quake of this magnitude had struck such a developed and urbanised part of Australia. The shallow S-waves, which radiated out from the epicentre, caused immense damage, particularly property built atop alluvial soils. The Insurance Council of Australia has estimated the damage bill as likely to reach $1.5 billion. Making this by far the worst natural disaster in Australia's history, including Cyclone Tracy. The consequences and enormity of the tragedy were evident immediately. 3 shoppers in the inner city suburb of Hamilton were struck and killed by bricks and building materials, falling from age-old parapets which crashed through street awnings. Here at the Newcastle Workers, 9 bodies were recovered from the twisted and buckled wreckage. It used to be the region's largest club. Graphic pictures of the frantic rescue operation, which took place in the first few days after the quake, were beamed around the globe and became the symbol of the city's heart-wrenching loss and devastation. In all, 12 people, most of them elderly, lost their lives in this awesome display of Mother Nature's unpredictable fury. The city of Newcastle dates back to 1801, when the worst convicts from the colony of Sydney were sent to mine the rich coalfields for which the region is now famous. Over the years, many examples of the fine colonial architecture of the 19th and early 20th century had been lovingly and carefully preserved, giving Newcastle a unique quality and character all of its own. Sadly, a great number of these were badly damaged or destroyed by the quake. Over 10,000 homes were damaged by the quake, with many being condemned and demolished. A large number of residents were left completely homeless, with most losing precious and irreplaceable personal effects. The worst of the damage was confined to the inner city suburbs, where the building techniques of yesteryear were no match for the forces unleashed by the quake. While many remained confused and uncertain by what had just happened, emergency and essential service personnel went into action, including the men and women of the Natural Gas Company. This is the story of their response to this most unexpected of disasters. The first response of the natural gas company was to put their patrol helicopter in the air to check for any visible signs of damage to the high-pressure natural gas main and associated installations and infrastructure. Natural gas is transmitted to Newcastle from Sydney through a 20-inch poly-coated steel main, which travels 176 kilometres to Newcastle's City Gate trunk receiving station at Hexham. The pipe route travels through some of the most inhospitable terrain imaginable and traverses the Hawkesbury River as it makes its way north to Newcastle. Gas conveyed in the pipeline is pressurised to over 5,000 kPa and is capable of delivering over 70,000 cubic metres of gas an hour to the city's energy-hungry industry, as well as the expanding residential market. Weekly patrols following the route of the trunk main are made to ensure that no encroachments or potentially hazardous activities are carried out by either landowners or other utilities and authorities. White marker pegs clearly show the pipeline easement, making it easy for the pilot to follow the line from a height of 500 feet. The aerial patrol carried out found no evidence of earth cracking or ground subsidence, which would indicate any likely damage to the pipeline. This was a welcome relief. Further investigation of the internal condition of the trunk main is still to be carried out by the peeing of the line to check for damage and signs of weakness. Meanwhile, on the ground, patrols of the trunk main were being carried out by the company's pipeline patrol personnel. These personnel are engaged in continuously patrolling the pipeline easement. Emphasis is given to those areas in which major activity is occurring, such as the extension of the Northern Freeway. Two-way radio communication with both the Newcastle Regional Operations Centre and the Natural Gas Control Centre at Mortlake in Sydney provides for rapid response should it be evident that there is any risk of damage to the pipeline. These inspections revealed that cracking and some ground subsidence had occurred in one area on Kooragang Island, some 25 metres from the pipeline easement. Closer examination revealed that this did not extend to the pipeline. Happily, the ground inspections could find no other evidence of earth movement along the pipeline easement.
Lewis, apart from the ground and aerial patrols, what other checks were carried out?
Well, a full survey was carried out to determine whether our steel main system remained cathodically protected. Now, steel is a good conductor. Now, to protect our steel main from striatal currents, which has a highly corrosive effect on steel mains.
So how did you achieve this protection of the system?
It is achieved through by placing an increased current into our steel mains and by constructing a number of testing points along our mains, and we will be able to survey those points to see the level of the readings coming from those points, and subsequently we will be able to see whether our steel mains remained intact or not damaged.
And any other precautions that you needed to take?
Indeed, we did. We also excavated a number of locations on our steel mains, and we use a non-destructive testing method to test whether there is any slight crack in our mains. The method is called the magnetic particle test, which by spraying small particles of ground steel, and we will be able to tell whether any slightest crack which occurred on a steel main.
This is the City Gate trunk receiving station at Hexham. Here, the gas pressure is reduced to 1,050 kilopascals before being delivered into the Newcastle secondary pressure steel main system. This system acts as a backbone feeder distribution system, taking gas to industrial clients such as BHP Steelworks, as well as to commercial and domestic customers. This is the Regional Operations Centre, which became the nerve centre for the company's response to the tragedy. Located only 100 metres from the Newcastle Workers' Club, the centre had suffered some damage, with parapets being lost and walls being secured with steel bracing.
After the earthquake, we'd lost all our power from outside, so we immediately had our own emergency backup supply turned on, and that allowed us to keep monitoring our key points around the system. But due to power loss out in the field, all our other sites were off the air, and from that we had to then dispatch people out to check those sites to keep check of pressures and flows and to make sure the security of the system was okay.
Two-way radio communications with field personnel were also interrupted, with base stations being quickly established using service and maintenance vehicles.
Yes, we'll be there as soon as possible for you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Telephone calls are virtually non-stop as emergency crews, police and customers were calling in, seeking our assistance for locating bad gas escapes and also to cut off the gas supply to badly damaged buildings, including the Workers' Club.
As field personnel were dispatched to various parts of the city, others responded to repair leaks caused by ground and building movement. By late on the afternoon of the quake, it was evident that the low and medium pressure distribution system had remained basically sound. Within the central business district, there were no reports of leaking gas mains, while in other suburbs, a steady but manageable stream of calls were being received. Fears of another San Francisco quickly subsided. As holidaying staff spontaneously called in to help out, field operations planners worked hurriedly to place priorities on the work coming in and to dispatch them into the field for attention. As this was occurring, customer service personnel were sent into the city, which by now had been cordoned off to all but emergency personnel, to disconnect gas at path valves and to conduct basement inspections to ensure gas was not leaking from damaged customer installations. Over 160 customers were disconnected in the hours following the quake. In order to ensure a comprehensive response to this emergency, a task force of key personnel was assembled to deal with the situation. Operations meetings were held twice daily in order to share important information and update on what was occurring in the field. These meetings proved to be of vital importance, particularly in the first week or so after the quake, when communications were difficult and great confusion existed. The natural gas company sustained damage to a number of its buildings, while others, such as the main office and showroom in Hunter Street, could not be occupied due to the damaged state of surrounding buildings. Apart from the Regional Operations Centre, substantial damage had occurred at the former Hamilton Gasworks site leased to the LPG distributor Elgas. Over 300 metres of brick fencing had been toppled. In addition, damage had been sustained by the main administrative office occupied by Elgas staff. This building, like many others, has been listed by the Heritage Council of New South Wales. Other unoccupied buildings on the site were so badly damaged that they required demolition. With the city centre blocked off to all but essential emergency personnel, temporary accommodation was arranged for staff at other locations, with portable offices and temporary telephone and computer communications hurriedly organised. Despite the chaos, in less than a week after the quake, the company was once again able to offer a full range of services to its customers. Why were there no fires after the earthquake? Although the Newcastle quake was of a lesser magnitude than in San Francisco 2 months earlier, it really does seem remarkable that the natural gas distribution system performed without a major fault or hiccup. The answer can be traced back to a decision taken by the natural gas company several years ago to rehabilitate its older cast iron main system with a revolutionary new piping system made of nylon. This technology has been developed by a subsidiary of the natural gas company's parent company, AGL, Industrial Pipe Systems. Based at Kingsgrove in Sydney's southwest, nylon gas pipes are manufactured using an extrusion technique. The pipe is manufactured in a number of different sizes and is joined in the field using a solvent cement. Together with a number of simple fittings, it can be constructed quickly and easily in even the most difficult field conditions. Initially developed for insertion in old cast iron pipes which had outlived their economic lives, the nylon system is now used extensively for direct burial in new housing estates and other areas being reticulated with natural gas for the first time.
Marketed under the trade name Rilson, the pipe is made of a nylon substance called polyamide. It's extremely flexible and has very high tensile strength, despite its thin wall thickness. The nylon piping system has passed stringent laboratory testing and is capable of being operated at pressures of up to 300 kilopascals.
At the time the quake struck, almost all of the CBD area had been rehabilitated with nylon gas pipe. This system performed faultlessly, as opposed to here in Beaumont Street, Hamilton, where damage to the cast iron was much more severe.
With the extensive damage to the Hamilton business district, it was decided to rehabilitate Beaumont Street, one of the worst affected streets, before reconnecting customers. The program of mains rehabilitation will now continue, with added confidence in the longevity and operating benefits of the system. Gas has been reticulated through the streets of Newcastle for well over a century. Newcastle Gas and Coke Company was established in 1866 for the purpose of lighting the streets of the fledgling colony with gas. By 1875, Beaumont Street, Hamilton, scene of so much devastation in the quake, was enjoying the warm and friendly glow of gas lighting each evening. The gas industry in Newcastle has changed greatly since those early days, culminating in the arrival of natural gas in 1982. While much has changed over the years, the company's gas system is still largely comprised of cast iron mains and galvanized iron services which have performed commendably, and in many cases since the turn of the century.
Unfortunately, the earthquake took its toll on a great deal of this system, particularly in the areas where most property damage was suffered.
The major damage to the system was caused by stress fracturing, quite a lot of which occurred subsequently in the weeks following the earthquake due to ground settlement and movement. Typically these mains were repaired using a Malco repair sleeve. Other damage that occurred was services pulled out of the sides of mains due to cottage movement pulling the service with it. We also had a lot of leaks around meters, the connections to meters, caused by the same thing. As the cottage moved, the meter moved and flexed the service and caused leaks.
Despite the extent of the damage caused to the older parts of the distribution system, the company was able to maintain the continuity of supply to all customers, a truly remarkable achievement.
The company's success in responding to the disaster is a reflection of the skill and dedication of the people of the natural gas company. Greg Martin, you must be very proud of your people.
Yes, I am, Tim. Many worked long hours, though weary and fatigued. Others voluntarily came in from leave to lend their assistance in the crisis, while others worked on knowing that they'd suffered damage to their own properties and personal effects.
And all of that dedication has been officially recognised.
Yes, it has. We are one of only 19 organisations to have received the New South Wales Government's Meritorious Service Award, which was recently presented to one of our people by His Royal Highness Prince Edward.
Greg, $5 million already donated to the Lord Mayor's appeal, and you've made a pretty hefty contribution to that yourselves.
Yes, through our parent company, the Australian Gaslight Company, we've donated $25,000 to the Lord Mayor's earthquake appeal to lend assistance to those that have lost everything in the quake.
The outstanding devotion to customer attention and service throughout this most unexpected of situations only goes to prove that Newcastle really does have a good friend in the natural gas company.
You got a friend at the natural gas company, my friend. You got a friend for life at the natural gas company, my friend. Someone to guide you, someone to see you through. You got a good friend at the natural gas company, my friend. You got a mate at the natural gas company, my friend. You got a real great neighbor and a true blue friend. You can depend on someone who'll see you through. You got a good friend. You got a great friend at the natural gas company, my friend.